What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Movies That Make You podcast. Season 2 is in full gear, and so we are super excited for what we got going on this season. Just to let you know what that means, we still have our weekly Prepisodes where we discuss movies to watch in preparation for a new release hitting theaters. I got my buddy POPpaGoss on those each and every week. Those drop on Mondays at 6 a.m. Also, we have our Creators Conversations. This is where we're interviewing people from the business and beyond to discuss what they do to create and how they create their art. So be on the lookout for that on YouTube. We're also doing our monthly watch-alongs where we pick a movie to watch. We live stream our conversation while we're watching the film on YouTube. This week, we've got Mummy May I. We're inviting the Horror Cat Dad back to have a fun conversation about another Universal monster, the Mummy. We'll be discussing the original Mummy, the first Mummy with Brendan Fraser, and the Mummy with Tom Cruise. We hope you also check out our website at moviesthatmakeyoupodcast.com. There you can see all of our social links. You can listen to the podcast. You can watch the podcast. We also have our merch store. You can find tons of merch for Movies That Make You and our friends. We also have a link to our letterbox where you can see all the movies that we watch in preparation for the new releases, but also the movies that make you laugh, the movies that make you cry, the movies that make you scream, and everything in between. So before we get to this week's episode, let's check out what we got coming up on the Movies That Make You podcast. Next week, Kristen's going to be on the show. We're going to all be discussing musician biopics in preparation for Michael being dropped in theaters that Friday. We'll be discussing I Want to Dance with Somebody, Ray, A Complete Unknown, Back to Black, and Springsteen. We hope you'll join us. On April 24th, we're going to be doing a live stream of our watch along of One Cut of the Dead. This is a great zombie movie we've talked about in a couple of podcasts already this year. So we're going to be doing that live watch along Friday night at 9 p.m. Central. And we're going to be inviting Kyle Valet and Aaron Anye, the creators of ZombieCon Volume 1. They're going to be back for the live stream. We're super stoked. So it's POPpaGoss, myself, and ZombieCon. We hope you'll join us. The week after that, we're prepping for The Devil Wears Prada 2. Kristen's going to be back again. We'll be talking about a bunch of fashion movies such as Cruella, The Intern, Confessions of a Shopaholic, The Devil Wears Prada, and Legally Blonde. The week after that, we are kicking off Star Wars month with our first of 3 Star Wars episodes with Scott, Raymond, and Chris Valentine, who are going to be our experts for those weeks. May 4th, we've got the Animated Galaxy. We're going to be talking about all of the animated shows in preparation for the Darth Maul finale that drops that night. The week after that, we're taking a break from the Star Wars month for 1 week of Mortal Kombat. We're going to have Zeke back on the show to talk about the 90s versions of those films. And then Josh and I will discuss the most recent R-rated version. And we're excited for the new one that comes out. We hope you are too. Hope those episodes excite you. So without further ado, let's get to the podcast. We are back with another episode of the Movies That Make You podcast. I am Sprang, and my co-host is here, Mr. POPpaGoss. What's up, buddy?
Hello, everyone.
And we've got our good friend of the podcast, Horror Cat Dad, is back. Welcome to the show, bud.
Thanks again. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. We had you on a few months ago for Frankenstein, and you were gracious enough to come back to talk about The Mummy. This is another Universal Monsters kind of IP. I'm interested to kind of see where the new Lee Cronin's Mummy goes, because it doesn't look like it follows the normal storyline as the other ones did. But we're going to get into the Mummy from the OG Mummy. We're going to talk about the Brendan Fraser Mummy, and we're going to talk about the Tom Cruise Mummy. And we're going to have just a good old time here. But before we do that, let's kind of just do a little catch up, man. Josh, how's your week been?
My week's been good. It's starting out crazy per usual. My wife's sick again, but with something different this week. But yeah, she's just resting, so hopefully all the meds will be better. My son's back to full health. I mean, he's in the other room right now, but he's back to full energy, which is great to see. He's off school this week for spring break. But he still has like ABA therapy and all that, so he's been going. He went today for a few hours, yesterday for a few hours. They're having a big grand opening for the place tomorrow, even though it opened like 4 or 5 months ago. So they close early tomorrow. But yeah, it's just been doing that. And then I definitely need to film some stuff. And I have a couple of shorts that have been in my back burner for probably like a month now that I just have not gone back to finish. But hopefully I can get those out. And then I got some movie reviews that I need to do that people sent me, either go watch their movie on Tubi and then review it, or I had an actor reach out to me on TikTok about a movie. I actually just watched it. It was on, I think it was also on Tubi, and it was like Teddy made me do it, I think is what it's called. But yeah, it had some uh small characters, but like famous horror people in it. Like CJ Graham was in it for a little bit, and Lisa Wilcox from Nightmare on Elm Street, or no, three and four, I think. Um, and then who's the other? Oh, Felissa Rose is in it for just a little bit. Yeah, so it's got a few bigger horror name people, but it was fun. The guy who directed it is like an effects guy. So it was like, I mean, it was cheesy for sure, but like the effects were pretty cool and fun. And so I watched that. I just got to do a review for that because one of the actors from who played Teddy in the movie, it's an older guy. He reached out to me.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and then a British guy sent me. He was like, he's like, here, don't share this with anyone. But he's like, would you do a review for this short film? It's like 50 minutes long, so not quite a super short film, but I watched that one. It was really good. So I just got to do a review for that. And then, yeah, just a couple other small things, but hopefully I can get my because my channel I've been trying to put out one or two videos a week, but it's at least been one. It's usually a short that I can
Yeah.
just throw together real fast, but I got to get back on like an actual routine schedule. So we'll see. I'll get there.
Sure. Yeah. Cool, man. What about you, Larry? How's your week been?
Not too bad. It's been busy. But yeah, I've gotten some stuff done, which is good. I've got some stuff come in as well, so I'm pretty excited about that. So yeah, I got some unboxings I need to do, and then I just did a giveaway on my channel for it was just like a random last minute thing that I did, and yeah, that was pretty cool. I still need to send that out to the person that won. POPpaGoss was one of the people that was on the
Yeah,
list
it
to.
was fun. It was a fun little giveaway.
Yeah, so
Nice.
yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, beyond that, I have something. Yeah, I have something Universal Monsters related that I'm probably gonna do for my members only content, and then yeah, just other than that, I have some stuff I have to unbox that came in. Not just from a giveaway that I won, but also some Funko stuff that I ordered.
Nice. That's cool. I actually was at Barnes and Noble, speaking of Funko, and I grabbed a couple of Wednesday and Enid combo packs, and looked online, and they were going for a fairly good amount. So I grabbed those up off the sale rack, and I've got those on eBay. I didn't realize that Funko actually has like a sell this on eBay directly in their app, so that made it
Mm-hmm.
super easy. I just scanned the pop and scanned the box, and then I just said like, yeah, list on eBay, and it like had all the information
Nice.
input. So that was pretty cool. Um, I also have a laptop, on eBay too, trying to raise some money for Frightmare, because we've got a lot of signatures I got
Heck
to get at
yeah.
Frightmare. So very cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
Frightmare is awesome.
Yes, definitely, definitely. My week's been going pretty good. The highlight of this week, well, one, it's spring break, so the kids are with their other parents for the first half of the week. So just kind of like a little bit quieter around the house, which is nice. And then last night I got to go see Project Hail Mary in 70 millimeter IMAX here locally, and it was amazing, visually just beautiful, and I was just sitting there, like, there were so many moments I was like, "Man, Lord and Miller, you know what you're doing as far as, like, storytelling, as far as visually telling the story." Drew Goddard did amazing with the script. He was also the screenplay for The Martian. We talked about that a couple of episodes ago. And I could tell there's a little bit of similarities in the way. Of course, the author's the same too, so there's also going to be some story beats that are kind of have a similar feel. They aren't the exact same, but it's like you've got a similar feel. It's a feel good movie. It's a it's a fun movie. It's got a lot of heart. It's got a lot of heart. It's got a lot of humor. Just the relationship between I didn't mean to do a little review, but I guess I am. The relationship between Grace and Rocky is just really, really fun from start to finish, and it really is the heart of the film. So lots of fun. I know that's been out a few weeks now by the time this episode drops, but if you haven't seen it, go see it. It's going to be great. But yeah, had a good weekend. We went out to we have a place here in the locally called World Springs, where it's like basically just a ton of hot tubs that they have different minerals kind of in each hot tub to represent different parts of the world. So they've got like an Americas section, which is like, Mexico and South America. They've got a European section, and then they've got like an Asian section. So it's like they just put the minerals in there just to give it a different feel. So it's supposed to be healthy for your body, that kind of a thing. But
Wow.
it's just like a nice resort type atmosphere that you can just get a day pass and just kind of relax, you know, relax in the pool. So that was a lot of fun. We went with some friends to that on Saturday, and then we did our Oscars watch along on Sunday night. That was a blast. Had so much fun with that. So it's been a good week. Good week.
Nice.
Good.
Cool. Well, let's before we jump into the movies, is there anything to be said about just mummies in general? Like, Larry, do you have anything that's just like anything that's just interesting about like where mummies, where they fit into your like kind of pop culture zeitgeist, I guess?
Well, I mean, I guess it all depends on which version we're talking about because the original, which we'll get more into it when we talk about it, but the Karloff one, I love that look of that mummy. But then fast forward to the '80s when you got the Monster Squad, and then what they did with that mummy, that one looks really really cool, but it really doesn't do much. I mean, if I had to give an honorable mention for a film with a mummy in it, it would probably be the Monster Squad because it's not really a mummy movie, but because I mean, if you've seen it, it has all the Universal monsters or the not Universal monsters because they couldn't, technically they couldn't use the names, but no, yeah, everybody knows it's Universal monsters, but yeah, I like the look of that one, and but yeah, they did. It's like it's kind of like I guess because of the runtime, they couldn't really do much with them, you know. But I like the look of that one. The Mummy itself has always been kind of like slow and not too. It's almost like one of those slow zombies. So
Mm-hmm.
I was never really too much of. I was more a fan of the look. I wasn't really a big fan of like it's probably one of my least favorites of the Universal monsters. I still like it because of the way the creature looks or the way Karloff looks in the makeup and everything. And then
Mm-hmm.
even later on when he's like cuz really later on it's more him in the human form than the actual mummified form. So
Yeah. Cool. What about you, Josh? Any other kind of
Yeah, I
interest
mean,
or
kind of
interactions?
similar to what Larry just said, but I think early on, before like the Brendan Fraser Mummy trilogy started happening, we always envisioned a mummy being like wrapped up in
Hmm.
in like a pyramid or in the tomb or whatever. Um, and I think, like, as time has gone on, it has become not even close to that in a way. I mean, like, the Brendan Fraser stuff is really fun, and, the story is really fun and stuff, but, I mean, it's in a way not even really related to, like, the Universal Monsters mummies, just because it's so different and it's a different tale. I mean, they do some of the same, like, how the mummy rises and does all that stuff. They do that similarly, but yeah, overall, we've always I mean, at least when I was a kid, I always when I heard the word mummy, I always thought of, like, someone wrapped up in, like, toilet paper or whatever,
Hmm.
or paper and stuff, so it's just kind of interesting to see how far it's come along, and it's not really like the roots of where it started in a way. So it's very odd, but I think Lee Cronin's Mummy looks a little bit more closer to like the Universal monster stuff at least. So I'm really hoping that it gets kind of back to the ground where it originated from.
So, I'm similar to y'all. I think one of the things the questions that came up when you guys were talking was, do you feel like zombies are an extension of the mummy? In it's a is it a mod is a zombie a modern mummy tale?
Um,
I
no,
mean, there's
not necessarily.
similarities, right? But go
There's
ahead. Yeah.
similarities, yeah, there's similarities, but it's just like Josh was saying, it was like they have evolved, because I mean, even zombies now, like now we have running zombies, you know what I mean? And it's just like if you look at, again, going back to what Josh was saying, is like if you look at the Brendan Fraser mummy, I mean, he's you know not mindless, he's fully doing his thing, using like powers and stuff like that, and it's just like so it's way different than from the original Universal Monsters, the Karloff one, but I think it needed to evolve though, like everything else. I mean, we'll get into it when we get into that
Sure.
film,
Yeah, yeah.
especially because like basically what you said, it is my thought also between the three. So it was in picking these three films, it's a good opposites, I guess, from the original to the Brendan Fraser one, and then the Tom Cruise one. It's yeah. We'll get into it when we get to that film.
For sure. For sure. And I think one of the things, like we talked on the Frankenstein episode a little bit, but just the interesting thing to me is how um the Universal monsters are kind of making a comeback in a pretty big way. When you look at Lee Wanell's The Invisible Man, which was a completely modern take, and I really enjoyed that. I thought that was really well done. And then he did Wolfman, which I thought was pretty solid movie. It was a different take on it, while it wasn't like a retelling of the Wolfman story in any way, it was still kind of like hearkening to that kind of Universal monsters. And of course, we got Frankenstein last year. We got Bride of Frankenstein this year, and then of course we've got Nosferatu. We've had another Dracula this year, and then later on this year in December we've got the Werewolf, which
Yeah.
is going to be, kind of a historically like kind of period piece that's in the same vein as it seems it's going to be in the same vein as like Nosferatu was, since it's the same director. Um, but yeah, Josh, what do you think is like the fascination or the return of these Universal monsters? Why do you think they're popping up again?
I think the fans have wanted stuff for a while, and I think it just the amount of failures they've had, you would think it would go away, and they would just not even try for years and years and years, and that kind of happened. I mean, if you think about the time from the original Universal monsters to even like something like the Monster Squad or any of that, that was years later. So
Hmm.
in between, they didn't do really anything in between. Um, I mean, there were like sequels and stuff, but those happened closer to the time when the originals came out. And then if you think about even like after the 80s, like horror has always been so gigantic, and horror really stems from the Universal monsters. Nosferatu obviously being like the original like horror monster. And it's Dracula, and they spin off onto the Universal monster movies and all that, and, I think just fans still love it regardless. Um, they just seem to be striking out more than hitting. Like, we'll get, like, one that is really awesome, everyone like an Invisible Man, or like, um I don't know, Nosferatu, the Robert Eggers one. But yeah, just it's not consistent enough. So I think they will still spend money on stuff like that. I think the one really awesome thing that like Robert Eggers and like Lee Winnell and all them have done for these movies going forward, is they've shown what you can do with little to no budget and make something really awesome and like unique and use practicality and all that stuff. So I think that is a huge plus because I mean, like Invisible Man, I think the budget was like $9 million, and they got Elizabeth Moss to star in it, which at that time she was huge, like Handmaid's Tale, and just she's a really talented actress. So, and we went on to make a bunch of money, and obviously that's the Blumhouse formula. So like use a low budget, but even like the duds make
Right.
triple to quadruple their money back. So yeah, I mean it's exciting on that front. So I think um honestly, like the one huge miss, obviously, so far is probably the Tom Cruise one, which we'll get into, just because that was treated like a
They were
blockbuster
trying.
film,
Yeah.
like a gigantic, like, well, and it's Tom Cruise, like it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't get more action star than that. So um, yeah, I think they just wasted I mean, I think they just put too much money thinking like, "Oh, it's Tom Cruise, he sells money or he sells the movies and stuff, and we'll do it like that." And I was not, executed well, but we'll talk about that in a sec. But I think other than that movie, I mean, even the ones that weren't highly rated, still did well, well enough for them to continue to make movies to this day. So I'm excited to see where the future goes. I'm hoping that the Lee Cronin Mummy kind of like catapults them back into talking about the dark universe that they wanted to do, that they failed at originally.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think fans would love to see a dark universe done properly, just for the new generation. So I think it's
Yep.
exciting.
Were you going to
Yeah, I
say
mean,
something, Larry? Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I would argue that, Dracula Untold was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like that I feel like that got a bum rap because or a bad rap because it's like I went to go see it in the theater and I was like, man, the effects were good.
Hmm.
All the story was good. Like I actually really enjoyed that movie and I was like, man, I can't wait for them because that was originally supposed to kick off the Dark Universe, right? And they left it on a cliffhanger, a little bit of a cliffhanger. And then it didn't do well, so they're like, "Oh, okay, so no, this is gonna be the new Dark Universe start," which was the Tom Cruise featuring the Mummy, and yeah, yeah, we'll get into that, that movie,
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, 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 yeah.
but I always tell people was like rewatch Dracula Untold. It's actually
Mm-hmm.
pretty good.
And I just saw a few weeks ago that they announced that Dracula Untold is going to get a sequel, and they're
Nice.
bringing him back to play Dracula. So that should be,
Wow,
it'll be, I mean, it'll be good. I was with you. Like I thought Dracula Untold was a lot of fun. It's got great, like you said, great effects. I think Luke Evans is great. And it told it from a different perspective, and it gave him a little bit more of a, kind of the modern take on it, but the powers and things like that he was able to do, kind of amped up everything. So I
Well, and
thought
it
that was
didn't
cool.
lose money. I mean, it had a $70 million budget, which is still pretty big at that time. But it
Mhm,
made 217 million worldwide. So I mean, I know they spend a lot on marketing and stuff, but it came out at the video store when I was working there, and I mean, we sold out like
mhm,
that first week. We had DVD copies and Blu-ray copies, so I know it kind of hit its stride on home video and stuff. But I'm like with Larry, I think it sucks that like not word of mouth didn't really get out, like, that it was
mhm,
actually not that bad,
right,
and then people just I think at the time that it came out, I think there was just so much stuff out already, and people
mhm,
just weren't in the mood for it, I guess, but they still went and saw it. I mean, it made almost, it at least made its money back, so that's good.
yeah, that's cool. Well, let's go ahead and jump into it. I want to start. I know this means if we go chronologically, we're going to end on one of the poorer iterations, but I feel like we have to start with the OG. We have to kind of get our feet wet with this. And so, Larry, do you mind kind of sharing a little bit about kind of just a quick synopsis of like just in your own words what's the Mummy about? What's the original Mummy about?
well, I mean, basically, it's interesting because you see the mummy at the beginning, and it's really you just see him mummified at the beginning. The rest is like I'm drawing a blank on the name, but when he's actually, I think it's a Imhotep or something like that. Yeah, so it's him through the rest of the film, and then the way Karloff plays it is just he has such gravitas with it, And I think I mentioned in the Frankenstein podcast, I was like, see him as Frankenstein's monster, and then see him as this, when you watch the film, and it's totally like different, But he's still got that creepy. There's a creep factor to him. You know what I mean? And so
Mhm.
it's just for me. I don't know. I don't know if that really sums it up, but because I really don't want to give away too much of it. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a slow burn, and it's one of those things where that's why it's not my I don't rate it highest on my list of Universal monster films, but I do appreciate it, and I love the look of him both ways, like mummified and as Imhotep, and the way he tries to, you know, I guess manipulate people and get his way and stuff like that throughout the film.
Yeah. Yeah, and he falls in love with somebody, and he's trying to, bring back, you know I guess it's not I don't know if it's too much of a giveaway. He's trying to bring back the love of his life, which that's a theme that we actually get in both the others as
Hmm.
well. So that's a theme that carries through. Josh, what about you? What's something that about the Mummy that when you look at the film, what stands out to you?
Um, I mean, I think if I'm being honest, like the poster is just so iconic, especially once they like put it into color,
Mhm.
later on. Um, and the poster is quite famous. It's in the top 5 posters that have ever been sold for the most money, for movie posters. It's the 5th highest one at 435,500 is what the original poster sold for at an auction, actually in Dallas, I believe. Um, but another funny thing with that is 2 of the other top 5, the one that sold for the most was Metropolis, which we just did a live watch for,
Mhm.
1927. That one sold for almost $690,000. But what's even crazier is the director of The Mummy, Carl Freund. He not only co-directed and did cinematography for Dracula 1931, but he actually did the cinematography for Metropolis.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and then the one of the other top 5 selling posters is actually Dracula 1931. So Carl Freund has his hands in 3 of the top selling posters, which I thought was crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a Oscar-winning, cinematographer. He won for a movie called The Good Earth, which I've never seen, in 1938. But yeah, I think, like, the poster just stands out the most just because I love the Universal Monster posters in general.
Mhm.
And we talked about on the Frankenstein episode about, like, that's why The Bride, I think, is loved by so many, especially females, because like, it's just such a pop culture, like, just how she looks and stuff. The Mummy's kind of the same way, like, Karloff's name in big font and different
Mhm.
colors, and it's just very vibrant and really cool. Um, but yeah, it shares a lot of similarities. It's also unique because The Mummy is, because most of the Universal Monster ones are based off of, like books, like, fictional books. Um, and The Mummy is actually it's not based off of any book. It's based off of like the true story of like, I don't know how you say their name, the Tutankhamun's tomb or whatever,
Yeah, King Tut,
from the
yeah.
yeah. So
Mhm.
it's like based off of something that really happened, which is more unique than the rest of them. And then one last thing about Carl Freund, which I thought was really awesome. He Years later, after he did The Mummy and Dracula and all that stuff, he actually was hired to work on I Love Lucy with Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. They actually hired him like personally, direct that, and this was like 20 years after he did The Mummy. And he actually is responsible for why we have um the why we have reruns, but also why we have multiple cameras that shoot in front of a live audience for TV shows. That was his idea, like his technique. Because before that, they would just have like one or two cameras and they would shoot it live, but they would just do it twice. They would do two takes, so they do it like for the East Coast, and then 3 hours later they would do it for like the Pacific time zone. Um, but yeah, it was his idea and his technique to like put multiple cameras and put a live studio audience. That way they could have multiple angles, and then they'd also would have them all recorded so that they could later on show reruns and stuff, which is pretty cool. So just a fun. I mean, I'm kind of with Larry. It is a slow burn, but like it's got some iconic scenes. Not as iconic as like Frankenstein, and definitely not just Larry and I both love Creature from the Black Lagoon so much, so like it's definitely not close to that level, but it's still cool. I mean, Karloff was Frankenstein as well. So I
Mhm.
mean, he's two of the major Universal monsters, which is really cool. But yeah, it's fun. I mean, if you haven't seen it and you do like the monster movies and the monster flicks, definitely check it out. It's completely different from the more modern mummy takes that we've had, which we'll talk about in a sec. But it's still, I think, it's relevant to monster lovers and horror lovers. So
Yeah. Larry, I did want to come back to you before I kind of share mine because I kind of had you do a synopsis. But are there any other things about the movie that you think the audience should know about that really resonate with you about the Mummy?
A little bit to piggyback off what Josh said. I mean, aside from because he mentioned the poster, but it's just like I still love the look of the mummy and of him as the mummy, and it's just it looks decrepit. It looks, so while I did say it's like probably my least favorite of the films, doesn't mean that I don't like it. It's more of like, since it is a slow burn, you go into it, especially nowadays, if somebody who's gonna go and watch it, like you're gonna go into it, you're gonna see him at the beginning, like, oh man, and then it becomes, Imhotep, and you don't really see him mummified after that. And it becomes more of a love story, tragic love story sort of thing, But it is a slow burn, and I do recommend people checking it out because it is one of those things where, like, if you're a fan of Frankenstein and you're a fan of Karloff as Frankenstein's monster, it's like I told you, it's like just to see the range between Frankenstein's monster and this and the Mummy and Imhotep, because essentially the Mummy and Imhotep are two different characters, but they're the same character. If that
Hmm.
makes any sense, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, a couple of things I wanted to mention was the Tchaikovsky score. I didn't know that this music was. I mean, I'd heard the music from it so many times before, and didn't realize that it dated all the way back to this. And so I thought the score was really great, that classical style. I agree with you. The makeup, like the makeup, even when he's the mummy, and then when he's Imhotep, like the aging of his face and everything, just top notch. Everything is just superb. Um, there was one moment in the beginning where I thought if it was a modern like remake that they were kind of doing a shot for shot, they would have the mummy like move, like because there's one shot where it's like a close up on the guy reading the scroll or something, and you can see the mummy behind him, and it's still. And I was expecting him to go like this, to do some sort of small movement to kind of like give it away and like, oh, we moved. So, but that didn't happen. But it was just it's a different audience. But yeah, I thought it was really good. I thought it was entertaining in the sense of like that classic film, the family aspect, the son, they're all trying to find the tombs, and he's trying to resurrect his love, and it's it has a similar theme a little bit to, in the sense that Frankenstein, there's the Frankenstein and his lover, and then the monster wants to create a wife. There's this kind of tragic love story that both of these films have that they really pull off really great. I think one of the other things there's one moment where there's just this super close up on Emotep's eyes, and you're just like just crystal clear, just beautiful, beautiful moment. And yeah, I thought the lady did a really good job in the film too that played Helen. Um, I'm with you, Josh, too. Like just kind of like anybody that is like a fan of movies in general, especially if you're a fan of horror films, it's good to go back and revisit some of these old classics because they hold up in a way that's hard to believe in some cases, but it's really really good.
No, apparently that actress and the director, they, like, did not get along at all. She actually, like, I think she kinda well, she obviously didn't make an appearance in any other movies or films like that, later on, but, I read about something about, yeah, her and the director just butted heads, as he was just trying to get her to do like, too much, or he was, like, kinda belittling her and stuff or something like that, so kinda crazy. And then the music too, the opening, they used, Swan Lake, which they used in Dracula 1931 as well, so that opening music is from the ballet Swan Lake, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, no wonder I've heard it. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah,
I,
recognizable.
Black Swan,
Yeah.
Dracula, Swan Lake,
Yep.
all that stuff. It's good.
Abigail.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
Abigail.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's epic. It's epic.
Nice.
Cool. Well, let's jump into The Mummy, Brendan Fraser,
Ooh.
1999. This was my first iteration that I ever saw of The Mummy. And of course, it felt like it was kind of piggybacking a little bit on the enjoyment of and Indiana Jones, like kind of that explorer personality, trying to figure out, find the mummy. Um, yeah, Larry, you got it. Why don't you share a little bit? What are your thoughts on 99's?
It's a lot of fun. I mean, it like y'all said. I mean, it is different compared to the original, but it's as you said. It has that element of the I guess the suave, almost Indiana Jones adventure, and the way that Brendan Fraser plays it, he plays it like a sort of like a like maybe like a 50s, explorer, the way
Mhm.
he's kind of like chest up, and out and everything. And it's a lot of fun. Arnold Vosloo as the mummy.
Yeah.
I mean he's awesome in everything, but I mean him as a mummy, he's imposing, and it's like I said earlier, in this one, they have him different. He's actually using his powers and doing all this crazy stuff, like with the whole desert thing. And I mean, not for nothing, but
Mhm.
even I have to say, the effects for this being 1999, pretty solid,
Mhm.
And then it's got some funny elements to it, like, the banter between him and Benny, and even
Mhm.
the other Americans that they're trying to race each other to see who gets like the book first. And,
Yeah.
uh, and then also uh you got the horror element of like the part when I can't remember the guy's name, but when that scarab or something, the beetle goes in him and it's like crawling up in
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's like, oh my god, man, I forgot how good that looked. When I rewatched it, I was like, wow, that actually looks pretty legit.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of the CGI is kind of, it's dated, right? But it's not as bad as, I mean, nowadays there's some CGI that looks horrible, but
Mhm.
I think they did a really good job with this one. It's a lot of fun. I highly, if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend it. And then supposedly we're getting a part 4. So
Yep.
Yeah, there have been talks about it with Brendan Fraser's kinda comeback. They've talked about it, so that's fun. Uh,
America's sweetheart, Brendan Fraser.
I know. Well, you, Josh?
Yeah, piggybacking off what Larry said, I mean, it is a blast. I remember being a kid, let's see, 99. I would have been 11 at the time, but I remember seeing it in the theaters and, just having a blast with, like, I think I brought a couple friends with my parents or my dad maybe took us to go see it. It had a lot of really good marketing too. I remember, like, commercials used to
Mhm.
come out on TV, and, like, they had the Happy Meal toys, like, the McDonald's Mummy toys were really cool, and it was just a fun time, and I had already seen Brendan Fraser quite a bit actually, even though I was a kid. Like I grew up watching Encino Man and even like George of the Jungle, which I think is what
Mhm.
got him the movie in the first place. His George of the Jungle movie, which is fun as another fun one. Um, and to also what Larry was saying, like, and you both were saying, like, kind of an adventurer. I guess Steven Summers, who directed it, casted Brendan Fraser because he had envisioned him as like a modern day like Errol Flynn. So like that's where that's where all the like action poses and movements and stuff from Brendan Fraser kind of came into play. Steven Summers, I mean, he's a pretty solid director for the most part. He did a lot of fun movies when I was, growing up. He did Adventures of Huck Finn, which was a Disney movie with Elijah
Mhm.
Wood and
Yeah.
I forget the other actor who played Jim in that, but he did that one. I think he also wrote Huck, or what is it called? Huck and Finn, the Disney movie with Jonathan Taylor Thomas. He did a movie called Deep Rising with Treat Williams, which is a crazy bonkers action flick. It's pretty fun. He did a really awesome live version of The Jungle Book, with Jason Scott Lee,
Yeah. Yeah.
playing Mowgli. And that movie still to this day is like really hard to find on physical media. I remember when I worked at the video store, people would always come in and ask if we had it, and like the DVD was super out of print. And um I would love to track down. I'm hoping that someone will buy the rights to it and like release it or whatever, but really fun version of that. He did a really fun one with Anton Yelchin that was similar to The Mummy called Odd Thomas. If
Okay.
you guys have never seen
I've
that,
heard
it's
of
a
that.
really I love Anton Yelchin. I miss him a lot, but that's a really fun movie. So yeah, he's just kind of like a actiony, adventure type
Mhm.
filmmaker. Um but, yeah, they had some crazy stuff on set, like Brendan Fraser, that scene where he's, like, hung, like, when the first time him and Rachel Weisz meet, he, like, actually, like, almost died in that scene, like, he was, like, not breathing. Rachel Weisz said, like, she's like, "Yeah, he's not breathing," and then, they had to, like, resuscitate him and bring him back, so, he, like, passed out and died or whatever, so they brought him back, and then, really cool I don't know if this was like, the practice of this effect, was based off of, like, Candyman, because that's what first came to mind, but Jonathan Hyde, who's been around for a long time as an actor, he plays the, Egyptianologist in the movie. He's also a lot of our audience might remember him from Jumanji. He was, Sam, Parrish, the father to Robin Williams, like, the younger version of him, and then Van Pelt, the alternate universe version. But there's a scene in the movie in The Mummy where he has all these locusts crawling all over him and flying all over him, and, I guess they had to, like, keep reshooting because, like, he couldn't do a take, like, because like, they were crawling on his face and stuff, like, for real, and it always reminds me of Candyman with the bees, like, Tony
Mhm.
Todd, like, they took the stingers off and stuff, but, like, he had, like, hundreds of bees all over his face and in his
and in his
mouth, and
mouth.
yeah, like, crazy, but yeah, that it reminds me of that, so I don't know if that was a subtle nod to, the Candyman, but ILM Studios, Industrial Light and Magic, they're I mean, they've done so much incredible effects work. They did a lot of the effects for this movie, so, I mean, you can tell, like like Larry said, some of it's not solid, but, most of it looks really cool, especially for pre-2000s when we were getting into the heavy CGI and all that.
Mhm.
So still a lot CGI, but, like, a lot of practical
Mhm.
effects as well. So I think that's why I like The Mummy so much. Mummy Returns was not too bad, and then, like, I've still never seen the 3rd one, but
Yeah. It
I'll
it
watch it eventually.
it killed the
Um,
series. I mean, the
yeah,
rise
well,
of
and
the
the
emperor.
Legend of the Emperor or whatever, Rise of
Yeah.
the Emperor,
Yeah, it's
Tomb
like,
of the Emperor.
Emperor's Tomb, yeah.
Dragon
And then
Emperor or something like
Scorpion
that.
King.
I guess if we don't know the exact name, it wasn't it
Yeah.
wasn't that great. But Steven Summers, he didn't direct that one. He just directed the first 2, so we
Yeah.
can't we can't give him too much of a hard time.
Yeah, I think the one standout for me about the Emperor's Tomb was that it gave Rock Dwayne Johnson his first acting gig, his first Hollywood gig as the
All
Scorpion
right.
King, as a really bad CG scorpion bodied Rock, and then
I
he
think
came
wasn't
back
that
and
in Mummy
did
Returns?
Yeah, Mummy Returns.
was was it okay?
Yeah, so the first time he showed, but I don't think it was fully him. It was that terrible CGI thing, and then they did the spin-off, the
Yeah, Scorpion
Scorpion
King.
King, and that
Yeah,
made like I think that has like 5 sequels or something.
Yeah, one of
The
them has
Rock's not in all of them, but
like one of them has Billy Zane, one of them has Ron Perlman. But let's not forget,
Randy
but
Couture.
also yeah, Randy Couture. Yeah. Let's
yeah,
not forget though, these movies also gave us Godsmack. Or actually,
Sure,
what is it? I guess it was the Scorpion King that gave us
yeah,
Godsmack.
Godsmack. Yeah.
that's
Yeah, that's
good.
the other thing is that was back when, like, the late '90s, that's when, soundtracks were, like I mean, it was mostly
Starting to blow up. Yeah,
rock music and stuff, but, yeah, I mean, go back to, like, 90 even, like, '94, like, when The Crow
hmm
came out. I think The Crow kinda, like, started that whole I mean, that was more grungier and stuff, but
yeah.
yeah, like, the Batman
Batman
movies, like,
Forever.
Forever and Batman and Robin, they
Mm,
were the
yeah.
soundtrack were stacked. I mean, you had, like, Smashing Pumpkins, but yeah, The Mummy also had some good stuff that led to some good stuff, so that's fun.
I have to say, this movie introduced me to Rachel Weisz,
Mm,
and I've never been the same.
right?
Even watching it this time, I'm like, man, she was so cute. My goodness, it's crazy.
She's just so
Um,
proper. She's like
yeah, and
every
they,
role she plays, you're like,
Well, except when
God,
she
you're like,
starts like drinking, she's like,
yeah.
you
oh
know,
right.
One of the things I did want to comment on, and I say that a lot, but this is the same mummy as the original mummy, Imhotep. Is this so? It's somewhat saying, hey, this is the same mummy. We're just telling the story in a little different way. So I thought that was cool. The zombie army. Also the fact that the mummy Imhotep is trying to regain his strength by absorbing and like sucking the life and souls out of humans. That's a different take, of course, than the original. But that same idea, I think, whether this was the original or not, it's definitely seen in other movies, other ideas, kind of piggyback on that, and that like, you know, he needs to gain his life back. I mean, that one scene where the scarab like crawls into his mouth through the hole in his mouth and then he chews that was just gross. But that's there. This is also you already mentioned, the guy who played Imhotep, Arnold Vosloo. I also got introduced to Oded Fehr in this, and John Hannah, which I really didn't kind of reconnect with him until seeing Spartacus a few years ago, and he's
Oh
like one of
right.
the main actors in the first season of Spartacus. Um, but the zombie army is super cool. The Sandstorm stuff is cool, especially when it kind of formed the face of a mummy, which I think the Tom Cruise one tries to copy as well with bugs instead of sand. But yeah, that's I mean, this was one that I saw and I just enjoyed it so much back in '99, and it's always had a special place. Just always good memories and all that stuff. So I think this was my first introduction to Brendan Fraser as well, even though the other things had come out sooner. I hadn't seen Encino Man before this, and I hadn't seen George of the Jungle. I don't know that I've ever seen George of the Jungle. I think I might have been a little older than I know I'm older than Josh because he likes to point it out a lot. Um, but yeah. But so Mummy was like definitely my first introduction to Brendan Fraser, and Rachel Weisz and like the others I said. But yeah, just a really solid film. I will say watching it at this point, I was enjoying my time, but nothing nothing really jumped out, probably because it's a 1999 film. But those few things I did want to mention, the zombie army and all that stuff. So
Well, and we're about to get into the Tom Cruise Mummy, but like I think the 90s Mummy, what it did well was, like, yes, there are silly moments, and, like, Brendan Fraser has a lot of comedic stuff between characters and stuff, um, but I think it balances it really well, and, like, that's how his character was like, the comedic moments are supposed to be like that, because if you do them too serious, then it's whatever. I think the Tom Cruise one, like, lost sight of that, and they were trying to mimic that, and it's not. They just went full comedy, I think, so, I don't know. Very strange.
Yeah.
I definitely
Strange
agree.
approach there, Cotton.
What was
No, I
that, Larry?
definitely agree what you were saying. Because and we'll get into it more with the Tom Cruise one, but like the humor worked in the
Mhm.
99 Mummy. Like there was not a point in it where like the humor felt like cheesy or forced. Like it was almost like situational humor. You know, and him being like the scoundrel, like think of like Han Solo or something like
Mhm.
that. And I felt like it worked really well. Now you know, go to the Tom Cruise one, like I don't know what they were thinking with trying to have humor in that. It made and then just what's his name, Cruise trying to force it, and I don't know, just yeah, we'll get into it more. But no,
Yeah.
I will say this: I dogged on some of the CGI, but I mean all the sand effects, all the like the face in the sand, the face coming out of the sand, the
Yeah.
sandstorms, all that stuff looked amazing. Like even like we're watching it
Yeah.
for this, I was like, wow, this looks really good. The things that really, the things that didn't stick for me, or the parts I was saying, the CGI mummy, it looked a little too, janky. Even the mummy army or whatever, even some of them looked pretty good, and some of them had like their little here's and there's that was kind of like kind of dodgy. But again, it's 99, But beyond that, I have to really say the sandstorm stuff is what really, like, man, they did it looks beautiful. I
Yeah,
think
for
it
sure.
still, even till this day, I was like, wow, man, it still looks good.
Yeah. And then one other thing I did want to mention too, that's similar to the 1930s version is that again, Imhotep is trying to resurrect his love of his life. So I think the Mummy 99 is truly a remake of the Mummy 1930s 32. And then now we're going to get into the Mummy 2017, and it's I don't know what you would call it. It's not a remake. We have Amunet instead of Imhotep. Amunet is played, I mean, by the beautiful Sophia Botella, and she's a princess who is killed and mummified into this prison casket, prison tomb, and then they break her out by accident, and she is not seeking a love as much as she is seeking another, like a male god to be by her side and to help her rule the world. So that's a little bit of the difference between where the first two kind of had a similar theme with the mummy and the mummy's goals. This is not love. This is power. This is I want to rule the world. It's trying to. I think I feel like we've talked about it a little bit, but I feel like they were trying to turn up to 11 on everything because it's Tom Cruise, because we're going to go more action with it. Um, and I think for me, the reason that we've talked about the humor not necessarily working is we don't see Tom Cruise as a comedic actor. We don't. Sometimes it's hard to believe when he's telling a joke or he's doing something goofy. It's like, no, he's Ethan Hunt. He's Maverick. He he's got it all together, and so it's hard to see him in roles where they're like saying no, he doesn't. And so that was kind of like, and he's just a scoundrel. He doesn't seem like a scoundrel, and so I think that might be some of the thing that made it feel so weird and forced, was that we're trying to make Tom Cruise do something that Brendan Fraser did brilliantly, and it's not working for us. So that's just kind of my takes on the humor aspect. Larry, why don't you start us off? Anything you want to share? Anything that you liked about the Mummy before we jump into things we didn't like? Maybe let's do that.
Okay.
Love it.
And honestly, to be fair, like when they first announced that it was going to be a female, I was on board 100%. I was like, man, this is cool. Like, I want to see, and especially like Sophia. I don't know how to say her last name, but I liked her in Atomic Blonde. I mean, she was in the Kingsman films, and I mean, it's like
Mhm.
I like
Nice.
her as an actress. I thought she has a really good look to her. When I was seeing the first photos of how she was gonna look, I was like, man, this looks like legit. And honestly, when you see her, even at the beginning, before they're doing the whole, like, I guess, the beginning where they're showing her back then before they mummify her and everything, they bury her alive. I mean, it's like she's pretty vicious and brutal throughout the film, and I really like that aspect of it. Russell Crowe, spoiler alert, he's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. He was great. I really enjoyed him. I mean, it's kind of hard not to like Russell Crowe, and I mean, in anything. I think Russell Crowe's the man. And I mean, even in Pope's Exorcist, I thought he was great. But no, I liked that aspect of it too. How he was like sort of like he was kind of collecting, all these things, and he was kind of a part of like the secret order to kind of, I guess, be sort of like the like, how do I explain it?
Nick Fury and the Avengers.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And that was the thing. That's where I feel like they messed up with this one because they were trying to make it too Avengers like you said. They tried to make it. Oh, we gotta catch up with these. We got to do exactly like what Disney's doing or Marvel's doing and DC's doing. And that hurt DC as well in the long run with Batman v Superman. So but I won't go into that too much. But no, I mean honestly, if it hadn't have been Tom Cruise, if they hadn't have tried to put too much like I guess cheesy humor in it, like some of the cheesy dialogue, between like him and the other guy, Jake Johnson. I think it would have been a little bit better. That's probably the best parts for me was I like the viciousness of Aminette and even Crow. I mean Crow's a savage in this film too. I thought, like I said, they were probably the best parts for me. Everything else was kind of like, okay, so now you're telling me Tom Cruise is indestructible, mm, you know, and it's kind of like, all right, well, he kind of is already indestructible in real life, I guess, because he flies planes and jumps across roofs and keeps going. So I don't know.
Josh, how about you? What's some standouts? Maybe
Yeah,
some
I
good
mean,
things.
I don't know. So, this was directed by Alex Kurtzman. He directed People Like Us with Chris Pine. But he's mainly only done like a few TV shows. And he did a couple like Star Trek like spin-off shows and stuff. So he doesn't have a lot of experience. So that right out of the gate is kind of odd to give him like a big well at the time when it was announced, like, that's a big deal, like, Tom Cruise in a Mummy movie that's gonna
Mhm.
launch this dark universe, along with some other films, but, then, while I was watching, especially the first, like, 30 minutes, I was like, "Why does this feel like a Mission Impossible movie?" And it might be because David Koepp and Christopher McQuarrie were the two main writers on this movie. And if those names sound familiar, Christopher McQuarrie has written and directed the last, what is it,
4.
four
Mhm.
Mission Impossible movies. And they're great. They're super fun. They're well written. He does really good with like spy and espionage and that kind of writing and action and stuff. And then David Koepp wrote the screenplay for the original Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise, and he wrote Jack Reacher also with Tom Cruise. So it's just kind of like I don't know why. Nothing against both of the like David Koepp has written some incredible film, like the original Jurassic Park. I'm drawing a blank on some of them, but his list, look at his resume and it's insane what he's written. So nothing against either of those writers, but yeah, I'm just like, was this supposed to just be? Did you guys not understand the assignment? Like it's a universal monster, and you need to make it. updated, but not like don't make it an action flick. Definitely don't make it like a comedy action flick either. um,
I have a
Go
theory.
ahead, Larry.
I have a
Yeah,
theory. They probably had like an original script, and Tom Cruise got signed on, and he's like, "Oh, I know some people that are gonna like, beef up this script," and then they got the guys from,
right.
all these guys from Mission Impossible that he's worked
His
with
best
already.
friends, yeah.
Yeah, so he's like, "Oh, they're gonna make
Yeah.
me look great," you know, and that's
When I
honestly
didn't even look.
no,
Go
I,
ahead.
I just I
Sorry.
just feel like that's probably. I mean, I'm just spitballing here, but
Yeah. No,
I
I
feel like
mean
that's
that's
how it
totally
happened.
believable.
Yeah.
I bet they use some of the same stunt people too, but yeah, I mean, right out of the gate, it did have a couple of mishaps. So the most famous mishap was the I guess starting production. No, I'm just kidding. The first mishap was December 20th, 2016. They put out a trailer early, an IMAX trailer, and it had no audio. All it had was grunts and screams from the background noise. Um, so if you guys remember, I want to say it premiered, let's see, December 20th. So it wouldn't have been the Super Bowl ads, but I remember when it came out because everybody at the video store was talking about it. They were like, "Did you see that trailer? It, like, doesn't have any sound." And you can probably still find it on YouTube, but yeah, it's ridiculous. It's like super quiet, and Tom's like flying around that plane, like, and like all
Oh
you
yeah,
hear is like, "Ugh," and then it'll like cut off, and then there's like a scream. So like somehow
Yeah.
whoever messed that up. So they already had a bad first trailer for the movie. So we should have known what we were getting into. Um, and then there's also Tom Cruise does not sign off for his likeness for like figures and Funko and stuff. There's a rare Funko Pop from this movie of Tom Cruise that accidentally got, like, not a lot of them got released to the public, but some people got it. But then Tom said, "You can't use my likeness," or whatever, and so they didn't do a nationwide release of that Funko Pop for the Mummy. So if it was at one time, I mean, people were spending close to like $500 on that pop because it's the only Tom Cruise Funko Pop out there.
Hmm.
Now it's kind of come down. It's like 60 to like $150.
yeah, because the
Just
movie
depends on
sucks.
like condition. Right, yeah. Well, that too, but like the condition of the box, and for Funko collectors, I guess they don't care about the actual movie, but yeah, it's just kind of a funny. I don't. It's also one of the most like faked Funko Pops, like when, especially when it was selling for high prices, like it was an easy one to like fake. So people were selling fake Tom Cruise mummy Funko Pops, which that in itself just sounds insane. But yeah, it's a it's just too, like, especially the first like 30 minutes of the movie. Like there's so
Hmm.
many scenes that pop up. Like I just watched it for the first time a couple nights ago, and I just couldn't. I knew it was bad, but I was like, what are, like, I just don't understand why they went that route, because like even the comedic parts, like Tom Cruise doesn't do a lot of comedic parts. Even in the Mission Impossible movies, I think those movies, like, there's a couple of like quick little jokes here and there between like him and Simon Pegg, or him and like Ving Rhames or whatever, and that's
Hmm.
funny, and that's cool. But like this was like a forced. It was like, I don't know, like Tom would like almost look at the camera basically and like do a throwaway line like, "Oh," and like not Tom Cruise. It's not like a normal Tom Cruise role either, which is odd. So like you
Hmm.
can tell he's kind of like forcing the lines and like trying to be funny. And then like the whole, yeah, like what you were just saying, Larry, like the whole invincibility thing, like that made no sense at all. Um Jake Johnson, who I love, he apparently signed up because he really wanted to work with Tom Cruise, but little did he know that there'd be so many like stunts to perform on your on your own. So like he was in for a rude awakening, but like he still probably had a blast. But yeah, it felt like a Mission Impossible film put into like a somewhat dark
Mhm.
universe thing. The Mummies or whatever, they were acting like they were infected zombies rather than like that was because like the way they walked and the way they were, the noises they made and stuff.
Mhm.
That part threw me off because I'm like, are these zombies or are these mummies? Because like they looked like zombies a little bit coming out of like the especially the setting that they first come out in. And I was just like, "This is so aw like, I just don't even feel like this is even a mummy movie, I don't get it."
Well,
So yeah, I just
no,
oh, go ahead.
sorry to interrupt, man. I mean, I think it's like
No, no, you're good.
what Sprang was saying earlier. It's like what's the difference between mummies and zombies. And I think at
Right.
the time, I mean, Walking Dead was still pretty big, so I think that's kind of like another thing. They're like, oh well, we got to make our mummies like fast and this and this and I like the viciousness of them. Like I like when you see them coming out of the tombs and then like the next scene you have they killed everybody in the tomb. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like I said, there are parts of this that like have some good stuff. Like the viciousness of Aminet, like
Almanac,
all that
yeah.
stuff, like where she killed the baby, she killed her father, she did all this stuff, and the brutality is pretty legit. I thought that those parts were pretty good. I mean, I've seen this film now twice or one and a half because I started watching half of it, and I was like, oh, it's that Mummy movie. I was like, oh, I'll check it out because I was like not doing anything, and it was just on FX, and I couldn't pay attention to it. And then because of the podcast, like I was like, okay, I'm gonna sit down. Maybe that first time watch, I was in a good mood, and I saw it, and I was like, so I did see the good bits that I was like, oh, okay, interesting, and yeah, like really, the only thing I could say is just her and Russell Crowe as Hyde. I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
those
They're the
elements,
best parts.
yeah, those are the best parts. Beyond that, it's like, man, they should have not had the other stuff, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's my problem with the whole, like, zombie mummy thing. Like, not that it doesn't look like, it looks pretty cool in some scenes, but it's just confusing, like, to the average viewer who, like, is expecting a full-on, like, mummy movie. It's kinda weird. Um, but yeah, it's just from start to finish, it's just an odd one. I guess, Russell Crowe originally, it was supposed to be Javier Bardem, which is also interesting because Javier was supposed to be Frankenstein in the dark universe that they were doing. And
Mhm.
then I think everything fell through. And then Russell Crowe has been really good friends with Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise for years. And so he had never worked with Tom Cruise before. So that was like a big plus. So that's why he did the movie in the first place. But yeah, I agree with Larry. I think Russell Crowe is the best part, and then, she at least looks cool, like, you know, I think she looks cool, like, there's some parts that I was just like, "Oh, it's I don't know if I would've done that," but yeah, she looks pretty awesome, and there's some cool scenes, but, yeah, it's just a confusing film, and it I think, like, I think Larry said that earlier, like, if Tom Cruise wouldn't have been cast in it, and it would've just been, like, somebody even, like, not necessarily, like, a lesser known person, but just, like, an average actor that, like, does, lots of roles, um, especially action-y type roles, if that's what they were going for. I think it would've helped the movie because, like, you put Tom Cruise in something, I mean, like, you're anticipating, like, a gigantic blockbuster. This was Tom Cruise's 2nd worst Rotten Tomatoes film, his number 1 was actually Cocktails, believe it or not,
Oh,
at
wow.
9%, which is weird because like, Cocktails is
I
actually
mean,
awesome.
that yeah.
But yeah, I was shocked by that too, but yeah, Mummy got a 15% on Rotten Tomatoes, so The Mummy scored higher than Cocktails, believe it or not. It's weird.
Crazy.
Yeah.
To piggyback on your kinda dark universe, like, they even, they had a photo shoot, and they'd
Mhm.
already announced Frankenstein, they'd announced The Invisible Man, Johnny Depp was gonna be the Invisible Man, uh, Phil Botella, and then Russell Crowe, and I'm sure they would have expanded if it had done well. I mean, and they were gonna
Right.
bring in, Luke Evans as the Dracula of this dark universe, like, it was they were trying to piece together And they just put the cart before the horse. He even had an Entertainment Weekly cover article and everything, and just it just did not. After this bomb, they were just like, nope. All the producers left. Um, and I'm kind of agreeing with you, Larry, on why it went the direction that it did. I think the producers on it were like, and Josh too. Like they brought. It feels like that I mean, there's three people for the story, three people for the screenplay. It feels like there were probably a couple of different iterations and kind of like revamping of it to make it more Tom Cruise like. I really enjoy Sophia Boutella, and her visceralness in all
Mhm.
of her roles. I mean, she broke on the scene with, like you said, Kingsman Secret Service, with the blade legs. I mean, that was just brutal. And then she
Love
comes
that movie.
back in Star Trek Beyond a couple years later as the main villain, and then she's back in this as the main villain. I like Annabelle Wallis as an actress also. It's just she just wasn't given very much in this to be successful. Um, but one of the other things I think that falls short in this one is I feel like they were rushing all the backstory they were telling to introduce us to Hyde and the secret organization, and then tell us who this mummy is and where she came from. It's like I feel like we should have just had the movie be that. And like, let's
Mhm.
just have
Right.
the Mummy movie be her, at least the first half, something more than like what felt like a glorified flashback. It just felt like it was just rushing through that whole story, and we could have gotten more, and it just felt a little so rushed to get us to the main part. I do think they did reshoots when they began thinking Dark Universe, and I think they added Russell Crowe late, because they were going to. I may be wrong, Josh. You're more the
That
stats
that
guy,
sounds that's
but
something to that effect. I don't know if
yeah.
I think I don't know if he was added on late. Actually, it would make sense because obviously if they had Javier in mind,
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
then they were trying to do him as Frankenstein, they probably had to fill the gaps as soon as they could, so that makes sense. That adds up.
yeah. But, what did I say?
You love The Mummy with Tom Cruise.
I love the Mummy with Tom Cruise. No, one thing that was throwing me off was, like, Jake Johnson's name in New Girl is Nick, and in this movie, Tom Cruise's name is Nick.
Is
So
Nick, I know.
I just kept like, who's Nick? Which one of you's Nick? Why you keep saying
Nick,
Nick? You're
we
Nick.
got a Nick off.
I
Yeah.
feel like they tried to do the and I don't know if this was intentional, but it almost feels like they're back and forth, especially once he dies. It's like it's really bits from American Werewolf in London.
Yeah,
Oh, right.
You
I could
know,
see
like
that
I
100%.
kind of took that as I was like, is this supposed to be like that? And he's like, oh, it's cursed. You're cursed now, and all this stuff. And it's kind of like I have a feeling like is this trying to be an homage to that, or or I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I never read anything about that, but yeah, I just think that like you said, Sprang, I think they should have just had her story, at least for 75% of the film, and then the last part of it, she's awakened in modern times, and then just have Russell Crowe like trying to kind of hunt her down, almost sort of like a you know, like a not necessarily Ghostbuster, but maybe like a supernatural or, just like a monster hunter sort of thing. And he's the
Mhm.
one that's trying to like, but he has his problems too because he's Hyde,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
Um, I did feel like that the way that the ending was portrayed with him kind of in the shadows and talking from the shadows, I felt like that was a nice, like that felt like a classic, device for kind of horror films, and then he disappears. Um, and like I said, I think Annabelle Wallis was really hoping that this would be a huge hit, to kinda set her career on a path towards, like a leading lady, but it just didn't, and so she's kind of more just doing, like, Hulu shows and things like that. Netflix, I think she's in, Peaky Blinders, things like that, but, I think I gave it maybe 2.5 stars. You know, it's like just turn off your brain and see some stuff maybe, but
it's a popcorn movie,
yeah, but
basically.
not
Just don't
yeah,
watch
not
it and watch the 99 one.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Or you could watch paint dry. You know, that'll
That that's pretty fun. So,
or you could watch here, I got one for this crew. What about if you had to pick between this or The Predator?
That's exactly where
The
I was going
Predator?
to.
Yeah,
That's
Larry knows.
exactly where I was going with it. I was
We
like,
were syncing up our
yep.
brains.
Yeah.
It's like,
I
okay,
had to do a double take. I was like, did Shane Black like produce this movie or what? Why is it so confusing? It still did pretty. I mean, not like it lost a lot of money, but like I thought it made way less. It still made 410 million worldwide. So Tom Cruise, like
yeah.
even his bad stuff, like still makes money. But they did lose. I think they lost like 60 million on it. So
Well, you got to think too, because it wasn't just the fact Tom Cruise. There was, I mean, fans that wanted to
Mhm.
that were clamoring for a new Universal Monsters, thing. You
yeah,
know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like we had
Yep.
Dracula Untold, which apparently nobody liked, but I thought it was really good. And then this one was after that, and they were like, no, no, no. And I think the promotion, and I know what photo Josh was talking about, the one where it's like they're all wearing black. It's all
Mhm.
oh, these are going to be your Avengers of the Universal Monsters, and all that stuff. And they really were pushing that. And I think, it's just so people that were like, oh, I like the Universal Monsters. We'll give this one a try because it's Tom Cruise. But I knew from the get go, I was like, oh, Tom Cruise, I don't want to watch it now. Because I was really hyped for this film. Like, I was really, oh, cool. I like the look of her. I like that they kind of changed it. It's a female. And then once they signed him on, I was just kind of like, oh, well, okay. I
let's
don't,
see what.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait till it's on somewhere and
Streaming
I'll watch
on.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like they spun off like all the ideas they had for that have become that theme park at Universal now. So, because like if you look at the first poster that said Epic or Dark, what was it called? Dark Universe or whatever. That poster is almost identical to like I think it's called Epic Universe at Orlando, Universal Studios, but it's almost they look almost identical, and then they has all the Universal monsters and stuff. So I think a lot of those ideas have been implemented into the theme park, and then maybe with the hopes that they can, if they want to try to do that again, they can get that back up and running. But yeah, I heard the theme park's really cool, so I can't wait
Yeah,
to make it down
I
there.
want to go. I definitely want to go.
Yeah, I know
Um,
Tim Burton did a lot of the music that they play there. Um, yeah, it's pretty, or not Tim Burton. I'm sorry, Danny
Dan
Elfman.
Elfman.
Danny
I,
Elfman.
I was thinking
Yeah.
of Tim Burton's
Batman.
like
Yeah.
composer friend. Yes.
Yeah. So Lee Cronin's Mummy drops in theaters this Friday. You should go see it. Why should
All
they
right.
go see it, Larry? Why should they go see it?
Because it looks like it's going to be different. It's not going to be, the Mummy featuring Tom Cruise. It seems like it's going to be a smaller story, a more contained story. And that I think that's why, for me personally, that's why I really liked The Invisible Man. I think it was modernized really well. It was a contained small story. I really wish they would do a sequel to that, but I haven't heard anything that they are going to do it. But, again, it's one of those things where like if they can simplify the story, make it more, I guess, a modern take or something to that effect. I just want a small story and then
Yeah.
see what they do. I mean, to kind of go off on a tangent, if you look at all these old Universal Monsters films, they're not long. And I'll give you an example like the Wolfman, for example. I think it's like an hour and 10 minutes, maybe less. And there's just so much in that. Dracula, same thing. It's a short film. There's so much in it, you know? I mean, heck, even the one we were talking about earlier, the OG Mummy, it's not that long. I think it's like 110,
Hour
115.
and 13 minutes, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It's around there. And there's just like, yeah, it's a slow burn, but it still feels like there's a lot in it. And I feel like that's what they need to do with these films, is not make it a big tent pole with like huge, we don't need Tom Cruise in these films, you know what I mean? We don't
Right.
need The Rock to show up, at the end of, you know, this new Mummy film, you know what I mean?
Yeah, as a cameo,
Yeah, as a cameo.
as a Scorpion King. Oh my God, could you imagine?
No, he'll be in the fourth
Yeah,
he'll be
he's
in the
gonna come
fourth
back in
Mummy
the
film.
4th
With
Oh,
yeah.
Brendan
you know
Fraser.
for sure he's gonna be. I mean, they're all
That'd be
about
great.
those big blockbusters. They're all about fan service. So somebody's gonna pop up. I don't know. Maybe it'll be The Rock, but maybe it'll be like
The deep cut would
just
be
somebody else.
singer from Godsmack. He just shows up somewhere in the background.
Larry's
Yeah.
the one guy who's like, yeah, he stands up in the theater. That's
Um,
right. I
Lee
called that.
Lee Cronin, most recently was the director of Evil Dead Rise,
Heck yeah.
and
Awesome
he
film.
actually is cited as saying that Poltergeist and Seven are two of the main influences for his Mummy film. So that sounds interesting. That sounds smaller in scope, like to your point, Larry. And it's definitely a different take. I mean, this is not Emotep. This is not Aminet. This is a young daughter who disappears in the desert 8 years later, brought back to the family, but she is not the same daughter, it seems. So a real different take on this kind of idea of the bringing a mummy back to life. So very cool. Larry, thank you so much again. Always love having you on the show, and thank you,
Yes,
sir,
sir.
for being here. And anything you want to promote, anything you got going on, you want people to check out?
Speaking of Universal Monsters, check out my Creature from the Black Lagoon figure collection. Yeah,
Nice.
I was able to get it down from 30 minutes down to 20 something minutes, but it's got there's a lot of figures in there. I have also in the works for showing some other non-figure Creature from the Black Lagoon stuff, so that might happen at some
Nice.
point. But yeah, I would say check that one out. Got some other reviews and stuff coming up as well. But no, and
Very
also
cool.
thank y'all guys for having me on, for sure. It's definitely a pleasure.
Always, man. You're always welcome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching and listening, and we'll catch you next week. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to jump over to our website, moviesthatmakeyoupodcast.com, see all of our links. Follow us on Instagram so you never miss an episode, a live stream, or an interview. And until next time, keep watching movies.